anything underneath the line coming off of it, like this secondary line that's coming off of it right here, if we work on that. Not with that fuse barrel in. Now this fuse barrel comes out, say the fuse blows, it's hanging out the bottom like that. 90% of the time that means that fuse is blowed, right? Does that mean no voltage can come through this switch? No, because I've seen many of these. I mean, ain't no telling how many times I've seen these. When they get old and break down, that fuse can be blown, and just this fiberglass that's done got old and broke down. I had a friend of mine that had his house stayed on for 3 days with nothing but an old barrel with no fuse in it. He said he had trouble with flickering and all that, but it stayed on, and then he finally called me when that barrel burned in two and fell out. He called me and we went and got him back on. The reason I wanted to turn around just now is this primary wire, I say it's what feeds that transformer, and it gets broke, and somehow the hot side falls down and falls across. Say it falls across this part right here. Fuse barrel's open, but the hot wire is still laying up there not touching nothing but this. What kind of voltage we got there? 7,200. You're still gonna have 120, 240 here and 7,200 here. This pot's still gonna be hot. So if I've got this, say this is my fuse that feeds this, and it's open but yet coming in. If that's laid across that pot, do I just want to pull that out to make it safe? Because what happens if Farmer John plugs that into his house and that's laid across that right there, even though the switch is out? Now what kind of voltage we got? 120. You could have 120 here, but if this goes on to the ground, you could have bigger, you could have 7,200 volts coming out this tail, dangling right off the ground or any of that. So if you got that situation, we want to pull that meter out of the house. If it's broke on the pole that the transformer's on, don't trust this. Go to the house. You can pull this out, but go to the house and pull that fuse out. Meter out, I'm sorry, the meter. So that way when he plugs it in his receptacle or hooks it in his breaker panel, that meter pulled, then you got an air gap at that meter. So make sure you do that. Any other questions on this transformer? We're gonna get into how we handle this secondary wire on the ground. We'll get back over it. We're going to show you what it'll do to you. But is there anything else you need to know about this right here? The biggest thing is if that thing's broken, laid across, we pulling the meter and not just pulling the fuse barrel.
Anytime a wire is hanging off the pole, and I'm talking about phone, cable, any of it, that's very dangerous when it's dangling about head high. Because if it hits the earth, it's supposed to take it out. The upstream device is supposed to take it out. Say it comes off the end of that insulator, that middle phase. Well, say this near phase, it comes off and that wire just dangling head high. It's not touching nothing. It could be energized. Oh, well, it's not on the wire, so I'm gonna grab hold to it. It can kill you. You don't want to grab any kind of wires that's hanging off the pole.
Same way with the phone line. That phone line may be dangling off the neutral or something here, or maybe dangling just off the pole. And you like, well, it ain't touching nothing else right here. But in a storm situation, what's it touching 2 spans back? It may be broken, thrown over a primary and sitting here hot. So always check that out. If you see something dangling, inspect that really good. Make sure it's not attached to nothing down there. And if you can stay away from it, just stay away from it. Let the linemen handle that. They're trained up to pay attention to all that kind of stuff. And you make sure that you make it safe for you to get near it. If you've got to get near it, you walk your back spans and see where that wire goes to make sure it's not connected to anything or touching anything that it shouldn't be touching to.
As right-of-way personnel, I came up on, you think, oh, this is 2023, we advanced. Well, I just came back from this last hurricane. I took a crew down there, and they called and told me, the bird dog told me, he said, all right, we got a right-of-way crew down there clearing the trees off for you. I said, who's grounding the line for them? They said, they don't need no grounds. And we drove up, and they're down there in the 3-phase cutting trees stepping in between the three-phase, cutting trees off. Now I get there, what do? Before I touch it, I ground the line down. As a right-of-way man, can he just touch wire? That's something you gotta think about. That was their in-house right-of-way crew. That was a contract crew. That was their in-house right-of-way crew. Works for them every day, and they had them out there in the three-phase cutting the tree off. That's not, you know, you can do it, but I can't. I'm a lineman, no, I can't do that. I gotta put grounds on, but a right-of-way man, no, you can't. You don't need to do that either. That's the old way of thinking. You need to make sure before you go in there, I need to see some grounds on the line. This was 2 months ago, or whatever, a month ago, Idalia, whatever that hurricane's name was. I was in South Georgia at a co-op, and that's where it was at. You gotta protect yourself. If you don't watch your rear end, nobody else will. You gotta see them grounds. If you don't see them, hey, they gonna say, oh well, if you don't get there and cut that tree, we're gonna send you up. Send me home. I'm not going in there until I see the grounds.
That's right.
That's just, you need to stand your ground on that, okay?
All right, say you just got triplex broke down, and this is in, and everything's normal. All right, that right there is 2 big drop cords laying on the ground. People say, oh, that's just 120 volts. There've been more people killed on 120 volts than there was 7,200 or 14,400 volts. We're fixing to show you what it would do if you get between a drop cord just like that. It don't take but, what, 1 milliamp, is that right? It don't take much of nothing to kill you. And if that goes across your heart just right, it'll kill you. And that's what's happened to a lot of people. But we're gonna show you, we like to use hot dogs and sausage to show what it would do to a human. We're fixing to show you what it would do to you if you got in between something like that right there.
Kevin, let me add something as well.
Yes, sir.
We had an employee several years ago, y'all, probably 15, maybe 20. I was on call at the time, riding down the road. Actually, had been to a call. I had an employee call and say, hey, there's a line down over here on this certain street. Can you come by and check it? He said, I'm gonna move it out of the road right now. It's just across the road. I said, no, don't touch it. I'll be right there. It was a sewer employee. You know, he didn't know. He said, well, the homeowner's already moved it. I just need to drag it out of the road. I said, don't touch it. I'll be there in 10 minutes. Well, when I got there, I'm glad he called because the primary was going over the top of the transformer. The transformer was still hot. The wire was down. It was the dead side of the wire, of the, the downstream side. So it lacked about 2 inches from touching the hot side of the bushing on the transformer. And if that boy would have grabbed that wire and moved it any farther, it would have killed him right there on the spot. The homeowner was just extremely lucky. If he would have moved it just a little more, it would have got him. So my point is, I don't care who touches the wire. Y'all don't do it. Our right-of-way guys, they don't touch wire. They're not paid to touch wire. They trim power lines and services. So keep that in mind. Just because somebody else touched it, don't mean you should. You got to look at you.
They're made out of fat, salt, and water, and that's what we're all made out of here today. We're very highly conductive. Kevin said that electricity's trying to go through ground. They don't care how it gets there. It's going through that tree and then through you that's touching it. Or it's going through the tree to ground, or going through a piece of wire, or going through you. I'm gonna flip this wire over right here, and when I do, it gets into a transformer. No matter how it's gonna get to the ground, it's going through ground some way. It could be through you, so. Y'all see? I want y'all listen to the noise. If it does right, it should make a big old popping noise.